Hi, welcome to the season premiere of the Film Section podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm
Mark.
Corey.
Yeah, I'm Mark. Yeah, man. New season. Gonna be a lot different than seasons prior. My mom actually asked the other day. She was like, "Why do you guys do?" I'm frozen. Okay, that's cool. My mom asked, "Why do you do?" My lip is like quivering, and it's
It's like
fuck
it
is
looks
going
like,
on?
dude. It's like that movie Dead Silence. Like somebody's using Mark as a puppet.
What the fuck is going on with my camera? All right, well, this is a
Mark
bit
is no
silent.
more. There is only.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Holy shit! It's
Turn
like,
that off
wow, I
real
didn't
quick.
know. I didn't know Mark was a ventriloquist.
So, anyways, as I was saying,
Uh,
the my mom was asking why we do seasons, and I was sort of like, because every season we do like kind of a different format for the podcast. So we'll see what happens with my camera. I have a feeling it's
okay,
gonna fuck up
dude.
again.
For a second, it was
There we
off. But you're like,
go.
dude, you're like Brandon Fraser in The Whale.
I don't know what's
Your
going
camera off.
on right now. This is so crazy.
What
Gonna
would
give
you
someone
like to think about
epilepsy.
your argument?
Oh my god, this is
Oh my
so
god.
scary.
This is like a found footage horror movie. We're just gonna see someone appear behind Mark. Mark, he's got a knife. Ah,
Dude,
Oh my god.
holy
Okay.
shit.
So,
you're going
anyways, let's just go to our topic,
just being
which is
Brendan Fraser mode.
let's just go to our topic, which is streaming and physical media. The physical media is not exactly dead, but it's like on life support right now.
Yeah.
If my camera fucks up again, we're just gonna go with it. So let's just see how professional
it,
we
man.
can be.
Your camera's doing its own thing.
Yeah. So Chris, why don't you talk about physical media for a minute?
Oh, absolutely. I have a pretty extensive collection of physical media, I would say. I think physical media is still pretty popular, except just not retail wise. There's a lot of like boutique labels out there releasing crazy stuff and stuff that you probably wouldn't see get released, and sometimes packaging it up pretty nice and getting it into your hands, like Vinegar Syndrome, Synapse, Severin, uh Scream Factory, stuff like that. um as long as there's a market for it, they're gonna sell it.
Isn't it? It's kind of like movie theaters in the sense, like, yeah, they're on a decline, but they're never gonna go away. Really, there's always gonna be a demand for physical media, and there's always gonna be like a demand for like theaters. Even though, like Mark said, it's not necessarily dying, but it is on like a pretty like sharp decline due to streaming.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like well, Mark too, like probably like when I was growing up, uh it's so weird to like think back, but like with VHS stores like Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, Video Factory, whatever have you, it seemed like it was like 8 months after a movie got released, and then it would be on VHS. And that seemed like a big deal. Like at the time, it's like, holy crap, like this is available to rent, and it would be like a year later till it was actually available to buy on VHS. And now we live in a world where it's 4 to 5 weeks after a movie gets released theatrically that it's available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different world that we're living in, for better and for worse. if you are big on like collecting, like because I have a DVD and Blu-ray collection and you know, extensive collection of VHSs just for showcase, you know, for nostalgia purposes. But yeah, I think as bad as it is, because places like Best Buy, FYE, if they're even around anymore, a lot of these places don't even sell DVDs anymore. I think Rite Aid has more Blu-rays than Best Buy does at this point.
I
So
think
yeah,
Sadly,
that.
it
you're
does
right.
suck.
Oh my
Camera
god.
still fucking up.
Yeah. So, well, I wanted to ask you guys: do you think that streaming really affected physical media in any way? Or do you
Yeah,
think physical media was sort of always kind of like in a little bit of trouble?
physical
Oh,
media is in the same like it's in the same it's in the same like boxed in like counterpart as like movie theaters. Like I said, there's always going to be a demand for physical media, always. I really
Mm.
do think that. Just like theaters, like it might become less popular, but the thing is, streaming is just so readily available. Sometimes it's cheaper, sometimes it's not. Uh, but I mean, when you're considering like the mass production of a movie or mass like outpouring of a movie, if you want it to reach the most people, then like obviously put it to streaming. It's it again, like I don't necessarily like it because I remember even just like a little over 10 years ago when like movies on demand was like a big thing and I was like, "Oh man, this is the future right here." And then it turns out like, 10 years later you have like fucking 10 different like major streaming services that will like put out a movie that just came out in theaters a few weeks ago. I don't think the demand for like physical media is ever going away because there's always going to be like because dude, I barely collect Blu-rays anymore, but I made it a point last year. Like I got the Batman, I got Pearl, I got X, I got like a handful of like even though like I don't collect anymore, it's like okay, there's certain movies that I definitely want to own.
yep.
You know,
That's how I am now.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, I collect a lot. Um, I mean, I have a subscription to Horror Pack, which is, 4 Blu-rays every month. Some movies I don't even know. I collect. I mean, I've been collecting steelbooks a lot. Like that's kind of my big thing is steelbooks. But I think that like I feel like unless you're going through like kind of like the more boutique labels with like your Scream Factory or your Arrow Videos or something, the the look of Blu-rays, like the actual artwork that they put on the covers, isn't all that like engaging.
no, it's really not.
Like
It's
with like
it's like cheap DVD quality usually.
yeah, with like VHS tapes, like the covers on those are like artwork. That's something that like
Dude,
actually looks really cool, you
a
know?
couple
Yeah.
of a couple of I have a VHS of Friday the 13th Part 8 Jason Takes Manhattan, which is probably the worst fucking movie out of the series, but I think it's a sweet awesome poster that it has for it, you know. Uh a lot of it and that goes back to like, the blockbuster video days. Like, okay, this movie is going to be shit, but it has an awesome fucking looking cover to it,
Yeah, that's
you
how
know.
they sold you.
Yeah, man, that's how they made it. That's how they made it
Half
marks.
the movies have half the movies on that shelf are like uh movies that you never saw a trailer for. So you're looking at that box art and you're like, holy fuck, this is gonna rip ass and fucking
Dude, the
based
VHS
on the
box,
box art, you had no idea what the fuck you were about to watch.
dude, the VHS box for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 was a parody of The Breakfast Club where it's like they have the corpse of the hitchhiker doing like the laying down pose. They're both like kneeling and Leatherface is doing like the fist in the air thing. Like, dude,
Um
like you I don't think you can beat that. I think
Mark,
that's something that's not
Yeah.
gonna.
Mark, to answer your question that I think you asked, I think physical media has been on the decline as long as physical music has been on the decline. Once somebody, once somebody opened the floodgates for like downloading MP3s illegally, and movies weren't that far behind.
Well, I mean, piracy is always going to be a thing, and I think it's weird because I was thinking about music where I think you saw an influx of people buying especially vinyls like in like 2008, 2009, early 2010s. You saw this influx of like hipsters buying a lot of vinyl records with like pop punk bands and indie bands and hardcore bands and stuff. And then
Yeah,
because it became so lucrative, that's when you would see artists like Taylor Swift start making vinyls, and you would see all these repressings of like, you would see Dr. Dre's The Chronic everywhere in every Urban Outfitters, every single record store. Even fucking Walmart has like The Chronic and has like Wu Tang Enter the 36 Chambers. Like,
yeah,
so I think
Walmart
there's,
chains ain't nothing to fuck with. Hey,
but I
that's right.
think it's like, I think you've seen this sort of influx, and I think pretty soon we're going to kind of see an influx with physical media again, because I think when you look at sort of the landscape of like certain trends, vinyls became really popular. Now, like everyone has a record player,
Yeah,
whether it's like a cheap one or they spent a lot of money on it. Everyone has at least a couple of records, whether it's something more popular, whether it's something their parents just gave them. Um, and I think you're going to see the same with physical media in Blu-rays and DVDs, and I think even VHS tapes are going to kind of make a weird comeback where you're going to see.
they're gonna
pretty
they're
popular.
gonna like a
VHS is
like
pretty
a like
popular,
they
right?
do with like the Sega Mini now. They're gonna do with a VHS tape with a bunch of like preloaded ones or some shit.
Well, I
Like,
mean, I think it's
well,
it's
no,
sort of,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Obviously, I don't think they're gonna actually do that. But
but
like, here's the thing though. Like, it's still a very modern form. Like Blu-rays, like 4K Blu-rays and shit. Like that's still pretty modern. Like I think it has like some time before it goes into like that next mode of like, oh, is it going extinct? Holy shit!
Yeah,
This is like an MTV promo from the '90s
it's
because I
so
just see
crazy,
like glimpses
dude.
of my face. Like,
It's so fucking wild.
I
Um,
feel like Dan Cortez on fucking MTV in
like I
1992.
don't know what's going on because
TV
so I
Sport.
tried the camera on like the actual like camera on my laptop, and that's fine. It's only on Zoom that the camera's kind of fucked up. So I don't know
I
what's
mean, it's
going
kind of
on.
cool, like in its own like weird way. It looks like we're editing it like that, like
Yeah.
purposely.
Oh yeah. I'm totally
I kind of like
yeah.
it.
This is all on purpose.
Yes,
Um,
Mark. This is Mark's new editing technique.
yeah.
This is gonna be. This
He
is like.
told us beforehand.
This is
He's
gonna
like,
be
just
in
go with it.
like all these graphics are gonna be in the beginning of the found footage film about how we all die, like where we
Yeah.
all die at the end. That's like
But I
weird fucking and weird camera shit that he's pulling. He's like,
The
yeah, this
last
is
image,
the beginning of our found
is
footage movie.
just Chris like looking into a corner with his face down, like the Blair Witch Project.
I think that to go back to what we were talking about, I think that um I think when you look at what, and maybe it's just my YouTube like algorithm, but I do feel like in the last couple of years you started to see an influx of reaction channels on YouTube with people reacting to shows, reacting to trailers, reacting to full-length movies now on YouTube. And I
Yeah,
think that with that you're going to see more people start to become interested in movies. Like I think, there's channels where it's like gym bros are reacting, and like girls that look like models are reacting to like Haunting
Dude,
of Hill House
I
and
was
stuff
just
like
gonna
that.
say, dude, because I looked up I hadn't seen it. I looked up the trailer for the Evil Dead Rise, the one that's
Mhm.
coming out later this year. And the next day on my YouTube feed, there was nothing but like there was like, don't get me wrong, there are some good like credible like YouTube or like reaction videos like that, but half of them were these fucking dumb ass like blonde girls like who've never probably seen like a horror movie in their life responding to the Red Band trailer for the Evil Dead Rise, and I think I watched like two of them, and a couple of them are like, "Oh God, like you don't make eggs that way." Like you know, like it's so fucking. It's
I
kind of
mean,
like
I
an
love it though,
idiotic fucking brand.
but I love it though because what
It's
that's doing is
entertaining.
that's bringing more. It's not even so much the entertainment; it's just the fact that it's bringing more eyes to film, which obviously for this
Well,
channel
I
we
mean,
love. But it's also just like I think it's gonna bring a lot more fans, and I think you're gonna see more people who say, a lot of people like X was a big one that, a lot of people were reacting to on YouTube. I think you're going to see people who have watched X who maybe want to know more about X or maybe want to know more about Pearl or
Yeah.
maybe want to know more about Maxine before it comes out. And so they're going to buy hopefully the Blu-ray to get that behind the scenes feature or to or
sorry,
to learn more
Mark,
about the filmmakers.
I agree with everything you're saying. It was just a frozen look of disapproval from you, like blinking on and off, like throughout everything you were saying.
I mean, that's pretty much
I
just
mean,
my
I mean,
face,
I feel like
honestly.
you're like
Like,
the terrorist villain in a movie where it's like they're sending like a you know a discrepant message, being like, "This is how it will be." Like,
um,
dude, yeah, I
I
agree with
you know
100% with what you're saying
the
though. Like,
the way
as long as it brings people in, then I don't think it's a bad thing
the
at
way
all.
the way media is so cyclical, like I feel like physical media will just never it's never gonna go away.
No, never will.
Yeah,
well, no, there's always going to be those people that want to that will fight to preserve it.
But here's the thing: it's not the popular thing anymore. It's just
like
when you
how
look at Netflix 10 years ago and look at it now. Like you could like, oh, okay, cool. You can stream like a couple like mainstream movies or whatnot. But look at it now. It's like, oh, like you have all like these like huge series and like these like direct to Netflix movies, and some of them are complete shit. Some of them are really good.
I
Um,
think I think streaming, and I think this is another reason why either physical media is going to make a comeback, or what's more likely to happen is piracy is about to become so much crazier than it already is. Is
yeah,
there are so many so many different streaming services now. Like
yeah,
it's too many. And it's not the fact of, and my argument for them being too many is it's not that like, oh, it's just as expensive as cable now. Not really. Like I did the math. It's still, cable is still more expensive. But what the issue is that it's so spread out and it's so vast that if I want to watch the Batman, I have to have HBO Max. But then when I'm done watching the Batman and I want to watch Community, I have to get Hulu. If I want to watch, if when I'm done watching Community, I want to watch Cobra Kai, I have to get Netflix. If
yeah,
now after I'm done watching Cobra Kai, I want to watch like a nostalgic Nickelodeon show, now I have to get Paramount Plus. And so it's just the licensing deals are so crazy and there's so much that the reason why Netflix became as big as it did was because Netflix had all the licensing for all these movies. It was just Netflix. So
so
Warner Brothers licensing came to Netflix. Paramount licensing went to Netflix. Disney licensing went to Netflix. So you could go on Netflix and Netflix also had a lot of niche stuff that you didn't know of. Netflix had SLC Punk and like more kind of the indie movies. Now SLC Punk isn't on really any streaming service that I can find. It was on HBO Max for a little bit, but
yeah.
um I think, and especially now with all the password sharing weird shit that Netflix is like trying to fix, trying to figure out. Um,
Dude, I've had HBO Max for the last like year, and it's not even my account; it's my brother's. So
I mean, I love HBO Max. HBO
Yeah,
Max
me
is my
too.
favorite streaming service.
I
But
like
yeah, dude, it's great.
I like it.
and don't get me wrong, I do think I love streaming services, but I do think that because it's so spread out now and it's so like it's not just one central thing. Like having cable meant you could find something to watch. And that
Yeah.
is another thing too with all the streaming services is that it's it's too much. There's just too much content to be consumed right now. That
Well,
And
you
it's
do it.
like
Here's
I
here.
already
hard.
I already see it. I already see it going a certain way because they said that what just happened? We're like, oh, Paramount Plus is like devouring Showtime. So like there's so many
Already
streaming
Showtime in the womb.
services. The biggest streaming services are going to just start swallowing the smaller ones.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
that makes sense. I mean,
And
because
I
that's
like
what's
that
gonna
joke.
happen.
like we're gonna have like three big apps and they're gonna be like fucking $25 a month or some shit.
Dude, I
And
forgot the comedian who said it, but he's like, yeah, I can't wait till all these streaming services is kind of all form into one, and they call it cable.
Well, I mean,
Like
I think
we
you're
all go full
starting to
circle.
see a little bit of the bubble now. Like I think so many people were like streaming is just, it's the way to watch your movies now. It's the way to watch your shows. It's all about streaming. And I mean, I haven't had cable in years. So, yeah,
same.
streaming is awesome.
It's a
But
Yeah, it's good
fantastic.
in that sense, but it's like you said earlier though. Like, is it like for physical media? No, it is not good, and it does suck because yeah, streaming is fucking amazing. I love streaming. Like
Yep.
I literally only have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and on my Amazon Prime I have an AMC Plus thing where I can like look at Shutter. I have like my brother's fucking what do you call it? HBO Max account. But dude, even that it costs me about $30 a month to have all that unlimited access to all that stuff.
mhm.
And as opposed to like thinking about cable where like I remember back when I was a kid, like my parents like at times like couldn't even afford that shit. Like
Yeah,
so
I mean, it, it's really I mean, streaming is, and just like physical media has its positives and minuses.
Yeah,
Streaming has its positives and minuses. I think that streaming is like, it's something that, again, I think right now at this time, we're beginning to see the bubble kind of starting to show a little bit of its weakness.
yeah.
I don't think we're necessarily going to see it burst, but I think we're going to see something happen where streaming is going to have to change with the times, or else piracy is going to become rampant like it was in the early 2000s, where, you had like your Put Locker and SockShare and like all these things that
LimeWire and Morpheus, yeah.
Lime, yeah, I mean, shit, LimeWire, all the
Like you're
fucking
going
viruses.
I'm a little bit older, so like yeah, that's but you're not wrong though. Like come on, that shit like even if there is like a major crackdown in that, I don't think it's ever going away. There's always
No,
going to be that working against the movie industry in terms of like
yeah,
people trying to like pirate shit as opposed to actually like put it out even if it's on streaming. And
but
like I he's not a very popular like dude or whatever. I know a lot of people don't like the dude, but Jason Blum from Blumhouse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um I watched it. He was on Joe. This kind of an older interview, but he was interviewed by Joe Bob Briggs, and he even said it himself. He's like, when you give a movie to streaming, like if you give it to like Netflix or Amazon, then instead of like getting the profits from this movie, like say this movie, it's say like you took Paranormal Activity and which only cost like $15,000 and made like hundreds of millions of dollars. He's like, if you give it to a streaming service, you're only getting like set amount of money from this, regardless of how much money that it makes.
Well, yeah,
So
because of
that
the
and it's
because of
so
the
it's bad. I
contract
think it's
obligations. Yeah.
yeah, and that's just Blumhouse, so it can't be good for movie studios, like
No, oh
in
no,
general. Like,
streaming is not good because there's an interview with Matt Damon where where Matt Damon talked about physical media and how physical media was so important because what physical media is it's that second source of revenue for these movies. So that's
Yep.
how a movie like Donnie Darko, that's how a movie like SLC Punk, that's how a movie like Fight Club or The Thing become popular is through physical media. Otherwise, these movies, like there are so many movies right now that have been dropped on streaming that in a couple of years are just going to be lost to obscurity because they're just going to be thrown onto a streaming platform that and it's not going to get the attention. It's going to be lost now in a sea of hundreds of thousands of other movies. And
you can, I
um
mean, you can definitely say that, but at the same time, like, there's definitely, I think there's just about as many like movie nerds like us, like kind of like people that are like acknowledge like, oh, this came out, like its IMDb presence, its Rotten Tomato presence. Again, like you said, they will get lost in obscurity to a sense, but then so did so many movies in like the 1980s, even like the 90s, like 2000s. Like so many of these movies, like fucking just kind of
Gotta
went
have
by the
both.
wayside.
Gotta
Don't
have
get me
both.
wrong, you
Gotta
are
have,
right. They are gonna. I
gotta
think they're
have
gonna
both.
be in a. I think they're gonna be in a different like form of that, like form
Even
of
even
obscurity. Unless
even
something happens to like bring them out of it, though.
well,
Or,
I think that like I think what a lot of sort of these more major companies need to do, like Disney or like Warner Brothers, is they need to make their physical media more enticing. They need to make it so that you want to actually buy it. And I think that, um, I mean, obviously, streaming is what killed like stuff like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video and stuff like that. But I think that in order for I think like Paramount and Disney need to start doing what Arrow Video and Scream Factory are doing with having this really eye-catching artwork, with having this tons and tons of behind the scenes stuff so that
uh,
it is a actual piece of artwork that you can display. It's something that I mean I bought the Coraline and Paranorman Scream Factory steelbooks. Um, and they are just it's just artwork, right? And they're 27 bucks, 28 bucks on Amazon. And they also come with a bunch of special features. If you get a Criterion Blu-ray, you are going to get your money's worth out of that Blu-ray because of
definitely.
the fact that every Criterion movie has like 3 hours of special features. And I think that more mainstream studios need to start doing that. Like, do you remember DVDs back in like the early 2000s with like how interactive all the special features and the menus used to be? And like, there was
yeah,
actually care
yeah.
and work put into them.
Do you know what my first DVD ever was?
Hmm.
Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and the animated menu was Mike Myers as Austin Powers literally doing this dance. And if you waited 2 minutes, a rocket would come up and give you extra special features.
That's
Which at the
awesome.
time, yeah, dude, at the time I was like, holy shit, this is fucking cool. Like you get like, uh, but yeah, like you're absolutely right though. Like I think video on demand, I think essentially is what killed which is streaming essentially to like a lesser degree, but streaming and like video on demand was kind of the nail in the video rentals coffin. I mean,
Yeah,
I was so dude when I moved back here to Buffalo, I was so surprised that there was a family video like here. I was like, holy shit, like these things still
yeah.
exist.
Oh yeah, I
And
rent
we,
a movie from there.
Um,
yeah, it's sad.
yeah. We are down to like the last like 9 minutes though. Um, so I think we'll probably just kind of wrap this up here in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess final thoughts on we'll go Chris, then Corey. Um, what I guess like what would you like to see in the next couple of years happen to physical media or streaming? You know, how would you like to see sort of the landscape of how people are buying and viewing their movies change?
Well, I mean, you're like from my personal experience, like I remember even 10 years ago, I was if like I had an extra like $50 or whatever, I was spending that on movies at FYE because they had everything. They had so many used stuff, so you can get a movie for like 3.99 or whatever. That like a movie that you actually genuinely like, so you can leave with like a thing full of movies this big for like 50, $60. Um, what I'd like to see is if you're talking about physical media, maybe something closer to that. I don't really see it getting cheaper anytime soon because if you want like something with like a great looking like box, because the steelbook artwork is like fucking amazing. Like, so if you love this movie, if it's like one of like your favorites, absolutely go out and like fucking buy it. Like, uh, I'm not sure like what they can exactly do to like trust. I'm sure they'll like think of something, but
Yeah.
the thing is, like, I think streaming is kind of its own worst enemy too in that regard, because there is a lot of great stuff on streaming, but there's also a lot of like complete shit uh, mixed in with the good stuff. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. So I think if when people do find something they or a piece of art like a movie they genuinely love, then yeah, you're gonna want to like seek it out. Even that I brought it up before, but that movie Dinner in America, I ended up buying it on fucking Blu-ray just because, and I'm still a pretty rare Blu-ray buyer these days.
Yep.
Just because, like you said, like streaming's great, it's cheap, but if you love movies, it's always going to be there, just like the theater, just like for like super like deep fans, the drive-in's always going to be there. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. So I think, but like you were saying, like some people still like vinyl. I think even 20 years from now, physical media when it comes to like movies is still going to be important.
It'll be something for
Yeah,
sure.
it's still I don't see it going away completely, even
Yeah.
if it's like on its way out or
I
on
don't
its
know if will. I don't know if it'll be a long time before people lose it for physical media.
but they'll have like Blu-rays that come out in like VHS like box set or you know what I mean, like a
Yeah.
VHS box, but it has like a
Yeah.
Blu-ray in it. I mean, who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows how it's gonna go? It can,
I mean, streaming
I'm not
streaming
gonna be that asshole who acts like you can, predict how it's gonna go.
streaming is clearly that next step, and that's not going anywhere. But I also don't think physical media is going anywhere for a good amount of time either. They both have their benefits and they both have their cons. But my hope would be that the larger studios with the bigger movies start picking it up because you now like there I feel like there are a lot of movies wasted on 4K because it's a bigger studio being like, all right, let's just dump this out. And it's like you get a 4K with a trailer and different audio settings.
Yeah, and that's it.
Comment-
And it's like,
Commentary from the
dude,
set designer.
this is a movie that made millions and millions of dollars for you, and you're just like, yep, dump it out, slap a original trailer on it, we're good here. Like, no, there are certain movies that need if they're gonna be in 4K, like throw some fucking new feet, put some effort into that shit.
Yeah,
Like these like Scream Factories and Vinegar Syndromes and shit are blowing big studios out of the water when it comes to this shit, man.
yeah. No, what
And
I
they
mean,
don't
one
even
hundred
have the
percent.
money. They don't even really have the money or resources. Like they're doing this shit and they're not even a big company. They license. Like
Yeah.
Well, dude,
No, I mean, 100% agree. Like, I think that, I mean, again, that's that's what I hope to see again in the future. Is the same as you, Chris. Where I want to see the major studios start to maybe do more uh, in their physical release to sort of make make buying Blu-rays and physical media cool again, because it is cool. I mean, I love my collection. I'm sure you guys love your physical media collections. Um, but yeah, so with that, we are just about out of time.
Okay.
But yeah, so thank you to anyone and everyone that is watching. Sorry that my camera is all sorts of fucked up right now. Um, but yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. There is a lot of shit coming to this channel this year.
Yeah.
We got obviously the film section podcast. We got the DCOM debate going where my buddy Nick and I are talking about Disney Channel original movies. Um, Talking Schlock Connection is coming back at some point. Um,
I've
will it
only
be a
been teasing it for a
classic?
year and a half.
Yeah. Will it be a classic is going to be coming back with guests and stuff. And then Chris is going to be having a new segment coming up on this channel pretty soon. Gonna work that out. So yeah, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.